tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to cut and sew an A-line dress with Ankara. I'll be teaching you how to cut and sew an A-line dress. I mean kaftan Ankara dresses like this one and this one and this one that you're currently seeing on the screen. To be able to cut and sew an A-line Ankara dress like this, these are the basic measurements that you will need to measure on your client. And you know that the length of Ankara is not always longer than between 44 inches to 46 inches, and the length of kaftan dresses like this is always longer than 40 whatever. It's mostly between 55 to 60 to 62 depending on the person's full length. That's why you cannot fold it in the length of Ankara waist, so you have to fold it the other way. You have to measure the full length times two. One will be for the front, the other one will be for the back, and then you'll be folding this into four. You'll be folding each into two, the one for the front into two, the one for the back into two. You'll be adding allowance for joining the shoulder and for joining the for folding the down of your dress in the length. So I'm opening it up here because this kaftan dress has a zip at the back. If the one you're trying to cut does not have a zip at the back, you don't have to cut it open like this and we fold it the way I will fold it. But considering that mine will have zip at the back, I have to open up the upper part, which will be the shoulder line, and then I brought one out and placed it on the other one, leaving zipper allowance of 1.5 inch at the back. Like I said, if yours do not have zip, you just have to ignore this part. So I folded it like this because I need to put zip allowance at the dress at the back of my kaftan. So what I will do next is to divide the shoulder by two, and considering that this kaftan will have a sleeve, I'll be adding allowance of 1/2 inch to the shoulder divided by two, and I'll be starting my measurement from not from the zip allowance, from center front, not from the zip allowance. Then I divided her armhole by two, and then I deducted 2 inches and marked that. Then the next is to divide our bust by 4. I'll be adding 3 inches allowance. 1.5 inch is for sewing and 1.5 inch is for ease, considering that a dress like this is not supposed to be fitted. So what I'll do next is to divide our waist by 4, and then I'll be marking that, and I'll still be adding 3 inches allowance, 1.5 inch for sewing, 1.5 inch for ease. Then from the waistline, I'll bring my ruler and just rule it straight down, not straight down, like I'll rule it out depending on how free I want the lower part of the kaftan to be. Like if you want it very full, just use almost all the piece that you folded. But if you don't want it full, just rule it out the way I did. So I went ahead to confirm the hip to be sure that this ruling that I've ruled, this marking I've marked without measuring, will be able to accommodate the hip, and then it will still be free. Then after then I proceeded to the neckline. I used neck width of 7. I divided it by 2, and then I marked 3.5. And for the back I used neck depth of 1. And for the front neckline, considering that it is an asymmetric neckline, the left is different from the right, I'll just be notching the middle, and then I'll open it up later. For this lower part, so that the side is not too pointy, I had to come up with 1.5 inch, and then I cropped it to meet the full length of the dress. Then I proceeded to cutting this out. This piece that I've cut out, I'll be cutting the pockets from there. For my pocket, for an adult, I love to use 13 by 13. 13 by 13. So I just proceeded to cutting out the pockets. I cut the back neckline. I slanted my shoulder. I opened up the back for the zip. For that zip, I'll not be opening up to the down. I'll just be opening up to 2 inches below where the zip will stop. So for this front neckline, what I did was to measure 7, 3.5 to the left, 3.5 to the right. And for the depth, I'll be using 5. For the part that is deeper than the other side, I used 5, and then I proceeded to marking out the front neckline, and I proceeded to cutting it out. What is next is to mark out the pattern or the design that I'll be doing on the front neckline, because there's a particular design I put on the front neckline which is something like this. So I just did these 3 cuffs, and on these 3 cuffs I'm going to be pleating. I'll pleat the Ankara fabric on top of it, and then I'll be using a plain material to conceal all the rough edge of the pleating. So for the pleating, I cut out this piece. Each of them is 3 inches wide. And for the length, I made it very, very long. That will be enough for me to pleat on all the curved lines that I've marked. Then the next I did was to cut out the plain piece that I will use to conceal. I will sew on all the edges where I will use to sew the pleating. Like when I want to use this, I'll fold it like this, use pressing iron to press it down so that after folding it will not be more than 1 inch and half. Then I'll be using the half inch to stitch it on my kaftan. So it will be 1 inch length. Then for the sleeve, it's a very short pencil sleeve with pleating, big pleating at the tip. So this the pencil part of the sleeve will be Ankara, while the pleating part will be the plain material. So this is me cutting out the pencil sleeve. I just considered uh armhole and I measured it and folded it into two. Armhole is actually 22, so I folded 22 into two. That 3 inches that I left up will be the length of the pleating that is coming to the pencil sleeve, and then I marked the remaining length on the Ankara. I divided around sleeve by two, then I divided the armhole by two too and marked that, and I just proceeded to cutting it out. Then again I cropped the front. I reduced it with like 1.5 inch because I want this part a little bit shorter than towards the armhole where the joining will be. So I cropped it like this and then I cut out the front. Sleeves like this, the front is always shorter than the back on the armhole because of how our body shape is. So what I will do next is to measure what I have here so that I will know the length of the pleating I'll be cutting. So whatever I have here, I'll be multiplying it by 3 so that it can be excess for me to pleat round the round sleeve. So is this fabric that I'll be using, and this fabric I'll be using it on fold like this. So just proceeded to cutting out the length that I measured times 3 of it. I'll be joining everything together before I will use it. And these smaller pieces are the ones that I'll use to conceal all the rough edge of the pleating on the body of the dress. So for this fabric that I'll be using as the pleating on the sleeve, I had to interface it because it's too light. If your fabric is not like that, you don't have to interface it. So there will be two layers of pleating on the pencil part of this sleeve. The first one will be this very short Ankara that will be pleating. I'll pleat it on the sleeve before I'll now pleat that plain material on the sleeve. And for the back neckline, I proceeded to cutting facing, and that is it for the cutting. To start stitching this, the first thing I will do is to turn the front neckline. I cut facing for the front neckline as well. So I'll be facing the right side of the facing to the actual Ankara, and then I'll be using hemming gum to turn the neckline. After turning the neckline, I'll press it and still use the hemming gum. It's important to put a notch at that point so that the facing can come out very well and everywhere will be neat. So when I'm done with the front, the next I did was to pick up the back panel of my kaftan and I fixed the zip first so that I can use the facing to turn the neckline and turn the tip of the zip together. So I marked where I want the zip to be on the body of the dress, and then from where the zip will stop, I stitched it down like this. Remember I said that I didn't cut open all the zip allowance. So I just stitched it and ended it somewhere there. I'll press it very well so that you will not even see where I stopped the stitch. This is just so that towards the down of the kaftan at the back, there won't be any form of joining. So after fixing the zip, I proceeded to turning the neckline and I turned the tip of the zip along with it. Then I did my turning with hemming gum so that when I press it, the facing can gum down to the kaftan. Then the next is to start. I'll be folding this with my pressing iron and I'll just stitch it down. When I was done, this is what all the pieces looks like. So I'll start my pleating on that part where I've marked. Remember that I've marked 3 curves on the front panel of this dress. And while I'm doing this, don't forget that I've turned the neckline first. My name is Oluwato saying in case this is the first time you are seeing my channel and you're welcome to all my return subscribers, you're also welcome. So I stopped here because the curve that is below is going to pass under the first one. So I'll be skipping like 1 or 2 inches where the second one will pass through so that it will not be on top of the first one, it will be under the first one. So I'll be skipping like 1 or 2 inches and then I'll continue from there. If this is the first time you are seeing my channel, please do well to subscribe and don't just subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified the next time I upload a new tutorial on this channel, because on this channel I upload sewing tutorials on daily basis. So you can see that I skipped like 2 inches and then I left the portion I'll pleat on top of that 2 inches when I'm done stitching the second layer underneath it. So I'm done with the first line. For the second line now, is under that place that I will start the plating from, underneath, so that it will be concealed and hidden. The starting point will be concealed and hidden. Then I'll do the same thing on this second line for the third line. You can see that like I've stopped so that I can skip like 2 inches. I'll leave the fabric that will pleat on that 2 inches. I'll leave it there, then continue after that 2 inches. Then when I get to the third line will start from under the second line. That part where I've left unsewn, that's where the third line will start from. Just like we did when we wanted to start the second line. So if at this point you are still with me and you've not subscribed, please do well to subscribe and don't just subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified next time I upload a new tutorial on this channel. So after all this, the next thing I did was to pick up that plain piece and then I stitched it on the part where I have stitched this pleating on, like the edge of the pleating, so that all this rough edge can be concealed. I used that plain blue piece to cover it, just like when you are using bias to like cover the rough edge of something. That was how I did it. Then the next after this is to turn the shoulder line with the back panel and then proceed to shaping. While I was shaping, I fixed my pocket, I fixed my sleeve after shaping, then I folded it down of my kaftan. It's that simple. And that brings us to the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you've not. If you have any question, please ask me down in the comment section. As much as possible, please let me share my tutorial and meet your friends and loved ones. And I'll see you in my next tutorial. Bye.